here. Okay. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the After Chat. And today it is my pleasure to have another Bill on here, Billy here on the After Chat. He is the National Wrestling Alliance. A lot of you people know we are polar opposites in our music tastes. He's a Smashing Pumpkin. I'm a Barry Manilow guy. But Billy Corgan, welcome to the After Chat. It's been a long time.
Yeah, Barry Manilow, the great songwriter. Great songwriter.
Oh yeah. Do you have a favorite Barry Manilow song?
Didn't he write I Write the Songs?
Well, he didn't write it, but he sang that.
Oh, okay. I thought maybe he wrote that one.
No, no.
Mandy, I love Mandy.
Oh yeah, well that was his first big hit.
Yeah, I had that 45 when I was a kid.
Really? I wonder what the flip side was of that. I don't actually remember I had the 45 also. In my one-man show that I do based on my book is Wrestling Fixed. I didn't know it was broken. I actually opened my show up singing Can't Smile Without You.
Nice.
Yeah.
Did he write that?
I don't know. I'm not, I don't think so, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
Or is that Nilsson wrote that?
Maybe.
Can't live if living was without you.
That's a different song.
Oh, sorry.
You know, I can't smile without you. I can't smile. See, I know you have a huge studio. That back there is my karaoke studio there. That's where I do all my Manilowing. So you haven't seen that.
And Manahaying.
Manahaying, right. That sounds like one of my old Jerry Lewis words, Manahaying.
Manahaying.
So yes. So what I wanted to do, we are celebrating. I mean, as you know, for all the years with the magazines, I photographed and reported on so many of the great matches of the National Wrestling Alliance, the NWA.
Yeah.
All the way back from Sam Muchnick and to the time that you've been running it. And now the NWA is celebrating a huge birthday, and the 74th anniversary or birthday of the National Wrestling Alliance. So I'm going to ask you the general question. What does that mean to you?
Well, we're standing on the shoulders of giants, really, to be able to take this company forward after all these years. And you look back on even pre-NWA, the work that was done, the things that were built, even Mildred Burke, becoming the recognized female champion, around 1937, which eventually led to the changes in the business where women could wrestle. The NWA sort of represents the living history of the business, including, very much of the early part of the WWF story.
Mm-hmm.
And of course the AWA. So we're standing on the shoulders of giants, and on some level we continue to support, the things that came from the NWA. The NWA built the modern wrestling business, and there's a debt owed, and I'm not saying it's owed to me, it's owed to the people who built the NWA.
Yes.
So I think no matter how you feel about the NWA product in the last 10, 15 years and how you feel about it now, you must always recognize that the NWA has a certainly huge an important part of history in the wrestling business. And if you don't appreciate that, then to me, you're not a wrestling fan.
So when you were growing up watching the NWA, who was your guy? Who was your champion when of all the legendary champions? So, back from Pat O'Connor to Dory Funk and Terry Funk and Jack Briscoe and Harley Race. Who was your guy?
Well, looking back, because, living in Chicago, and you and I may have talked about this before, I got AWA out of, Chicago and Minneapolis. I got WVA or whatever it was called, WWA, which was Bruiser's thing in Indianapolis. We got some of that.
Right.
I got Georgia Championship Wrestling coming up out of Atlanta, and then I must have been seeing some of the NWA stuff because I certainly remember Harley Race being the champion. So I got this weird melange, and to me it was confusing because I didn't understand what territories were. So I didn't understand how Ric Flair was champ, and then this guy was champ, and Bruiser was champ. It was very confusing to me.
Yes.
But when I look back to answer your question in spirit, the one who most resonated with me at that point in my life, in my 8 years old, 10 years old, 12 years old, that part of my life, which, as you know, that those memories kind of seal in your head forever, it was certainly Harley as champion.
Sure.
I loved Ric Flair, but to me, Ric Flair was an outsized personality, and it didn't really matter whether or not he had the belt in my mind. He was like a star that seemed to exist in a different set of heavens than everybody else. I didn't really understand what that meant, other than I sort of recognized that Flair was like a different breed at that time,
Yeah.
the way he carried himself and everything.
Yeah.
But Harley as champion and the way Harley connected through the camera, his toughness is something that I've referred to many, many times over the last 4 or 5 years. And as the company has gone along, it has really become more about the spiritual descendant of what Harley Race and men like him built. In my mind, that represents what will be the modern NWA.
Yeah, no, of course, we're talking about the lineage of tough guys in NWA championships, and the current champion, Trevor Murdoch, is one hell of a tough guy as well.
And also was trained by Harley. Harley was his first teacher. And Harley means so much to him as a person and as a talent. And he's, for somebody like Trevor, Harley's kind of like a star up in the heavens that keeps kind of Trevor on course.
Yeah.
When he looks at the disappointments that he's had, the victories that he's had, he often refers to what Harley went through. And it gives him sort of like a solace and a comfort and a sort of a motivation. Because Harley's sort of voice kind of rings in his head as to what it means to be a champion, what it means to be the NWA champion. And it has a very particular ring to it. And if you grew up like I did watching Harley cut those promos to the television, it was the soft-spoken nature and the sort of the meanness behind the soft voice that was so intimidating to me as a child.
Yeah. Harley would get on TV, and as tough as he was, he'd be so quiet and go, "I'm the greatest in God's green earth, and you better watch out." He had that very intimidating, quiet man.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny what you remember, right? I remember watching when I was a kid, 10, 12 years old, and Harley was talking about an opponent, and he said, "You may be great, but I'm just a little greater."
Yes, yeah, yeah, yeah. Harley was amazing. I'm glad that Trevor Murdoch has the feeling of Harley Race going into these matches. Now, of course, on August 27th, 28th.
And 28th, yeah.
Yeah, in St. Louis, which was the home of the National Wrestling Alliance. I mean, Sam Muchnick was the National Wrestling Alliance. You have a lot going on that weekend on the 74th year anniversary. And how are you holding this? You're the main man now of the National Wrestling Alliance. You're the Sam Muchnick of the modern day. How does that feel to you?
Those are big shoes to fill, but
yeah, that's true.
Is there a question there? Sorry.
The question is, how do you feel about that?
I feel good.
Yeah.
I feel good. Yeah. I didn't grow up in the business like some people did. And at times coming into the business, I was treated very poorly as sort of an outsider. The fact that I was a celebrity kind of only went so far, and then past that, it was like, "Oh, you're not one of the boys. Oh, you're not part of this business. You're an outsider." It took me many, many years to navigate that. And at various times along the way, including over the last few years, particularly through the pandemic, I really asked myself, was this the place for me? Did I belong in the professional wrestling business? Did I belong running the National Wrestling Alliance? And I think the epiphany I had was simple as this. We live in a world where a lot of the things that meant a lot to the Harley Races and the superstar Billy Grahams and the Austin Idols and the Bruiser Brodies, those things have been sort of sold as, well, that's how they used to do it, and now we do it this different way.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe, and I certainly still talk to some of the men who are around, and if I could go in a time machine and talk to some of the ones that we've lost, I don't believe that they believe that that all the changes in the business have been for the best. Mm-hmm. They've been the best thing for the business. Okay. That's my general sense of it. Yeah. So set that thought aside for 1 second. And then what is an interloper like me, coming from entertainment, coming from as a musician, as a rock star? What am I doing in a business that I really don't belong in? And the epiphany I had was twofold. One is, I personally recognize that the historical frame of the National Wrestling Alliance, and by extension the AWA, and even down to Mid-South and stuff like that, I still believe that there is not only a future there, that the public will ultimately swing back towards the middle.
Yeah.
And in a modern context, not the same, but it's the same in a new way, will once again fall in love with why those stories and why that style of working is important. That's my personal feeling. Combined with the fact that I think it takes an outsider like me to see the business with fresh eyes, to bring fresh ideas to it, and not sort of fall back into the same tropes, the same finishes, the same conclusions, and the same on some level. And I say this with the sort of a level of humility attached to it. There's a lot of cynicism in the professional wrestling business, kind of like well, we tried that and it didn't work, or that doesn't work, or and I think you've seen, particularly with the growth of female talents in the business over the last 5 to 7 years, how they're becoming main event draws, how they're just as important as the male talent in terms of drawing the public, how we need in the 21st century to open up professional wrestling to every audience possible. Sure. International, global, every class of person, every background, every possibility. Tell different types of stories to a different audience living in a different world. I think I'm the right person to bring some of those, not all of them, but some of those things into the mainstream focus. And so once I put those two pieces together in my head, the traditional way of working and what I think I personally can bring to the table, I feel I am the right person to run this company, and not only run it, but bring it back into international prominence.
A lot of to bring it back internationally, a lot of people say, well, God, I wish the NWA had quote unquote real TV.
Me too.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. What we've been able to do is to work within the systems that we have and grow and create credibility and respect where no one thought that was possible.
Right.
And I've said it a few times, but I'll be brief about it here. I'm a wealthy person. I'm not as rich as other people, but I have money. I could have come in and blown a lot more money in the beginning. I don't think the NWA would be any further along than it is right now.
Mm-hmm.
I think you have to change a lot of minds first. I think you have to figure out who you are, which we have done over the last 4 to 5 years. And then you have to set yourself up for when you walk into those meetings that I do have, and I do have them, with the biggest networks in the world, traditional broadcast networks, and of course digital networks. Yeah. You have to actually bring something to the table that they recognize as a modern 21st century product. And I'm not here to talk about other people's ratings or other people's success or failure. I'm worried about my business and whether or not, when I'm sitting with the head of one of the biggest networks in the world, that I actually have something that makes sense to them in the 21st century context, that has a growth vector to it, that can attract different audiences than wrestling would traditionally attract. Maybe bring some of the people back to wrestling that have walked away over the last 5 to 10 years because of being unhappy with the way wrestling's been presented. I have to be able to make that case.
Yeah.
Money doesn't do it. Celebrity doesn't do it. You have to have a business model, and you have to have a frame of reference that somebody who's not a wrestling fan can understand, say, there might be money in that for me.
Exactly. This is going to turn into something that will be profitable for us.
And have a long-term growth arc. Sure. Let's not forget, and I'm probably wrong, you might know the numbers better than I do, but when the McMahons bought WCW, what was it losing? 150, 180 million a year? Okay. That was on some level, that was the beginning of the end, or the end of the beginning of an old way of doing business. And how have the McMahons been able to subsidize their business over the last 20 years? Well, it's been a combination of digital platforms, video games, you know what I mean? And
of course, they branched out into
right.
merchandising.
So WWE just isn't what it used to be. No. So, and none of us can say, but 10 years from now, it's very possible that WWE, because they're not going anywhere, might be strictly a digital only product and not have quote unquote real TV. So I don't think anybody would complain if I called you tomorrow and said, hey, this entrepreneur from Malaysia called me and he's starting a new sports network and he just gave me $50 million to run the NWA for the next 10 years. I don't think anybody would complain and say it's not real TV, because let's all live in the modern world.
Yeah.
We all are capable on our phones or our iPads or whatever of getting everything from Fight to HBO to ESPN, you know what I'm saying? So this is no longer a valid excuse. At the end of the day, and I'm in the same thing with my music life, you have to be able to draw.
Sure.
So where are you drawing from? Right now, we draw through Fight and we draw through YouTube.
Right. Right.
So we've reestablished the credibility of the NWA. So I'm curious to answer that same question, 4 or 5 years from now, and whether or not I've either found a different form of revenue, a different way to build the business, or I've found a balance between those things in traditional television. But we're just not there yet.
You got a date. We're going to do this 4 or 5 years.
Love it. And let me say one other quick thing, because I think it's really important to be sort of transparent. As the NWA has found new ways to redefine itself into into our 75th year, I've had to learn what that really means, what the audience is interested in. We've had to grow as a business internally. We've had to build an office. We've had to build marketing ability. We've had to find the ability to sell tickets in cities we don't live in and things like that. So there are times where I can get grumpy about not having the things that I want, which is that sort of traditional television income-based aptitude, to use aptitude.
Thank you.
Aptitude. Thank you. But there are times I think, that might have been too soon. We may have not been ready, even if that call had come. I think we're about ready right about now. And so now I think that question has a lot of validity. Okay. Sort of like what's about to happen in the next 24 to 36 months, I think will really determine whether or not everything I'm saying means something, or it's just sort of more of the same. And 3 years from now, I'm still looking for the great magical, chord in the sky.
Well, let's talk about what's happening currently now, getting back to the 74th year anniversary show. Trevor Murdoch will be defending the NWA World Heavyweight Championship against Tyrus. Nick Aldis wanted the shot. There's been some problems there, but this is going to be a hell of a match for the champion. Tyrus is bigger than Trevor Murdoch, and you never know what he's going to do. He's very unpredictable.
Yeah, I find it really funny when people question the ability of a man who's 6'7", 375 pounds.
Yeah.
Who are the closest athletes that we could compare Tyrus to? Andre the Giant, Big John Studd, Big Show, right?
Yeah.
None of those guys are going to win a race, right? What I mean? They might win a race to the bar, but they're not going to win a race.
Andre up there with me, I won the race.
I'm sure you did. But who would have won in a wrestling match?
Well, he won the match, yes.
100 times out of 100 times he's going to beat you. So again, you're taking a 6'7", 375-pound man and putting there with another man who's 6'7", 330. I mean, as JR likes to say, I mean, this isn't going to be a ballet,
Yeah.
But this is again the NWA. Are we more interested in a particular form of skill, or are we interested in a particular form of toughness?
To me,
I'm way more interested in a particular form of toughness. I will take that 19 times out of 20.
Yeah, no, for that match, I'm looking forward to it. Also, Camille is going to be defending her title. There's so many Bully Ray is there's a lot of mixture of a lot of different companies in here too, which I wanted to briefly discuss with you. Is the NWA now making these plans with some of the other companies to like they did in Nashville on the Ric Flair last match probably show. But yeah,
the last match.
Yeah, Baron von Raschke on an interview, he said, "Which match? The first last match? The second? He's been married 18 times." So,
I love the Baron. Yeah, I think it behooves us to be sort of a territorial company, to work with anybody who wants to be in business with us, and I think we have such great talent. I would love to see our talent on their stage and their talent on our stage. And we're blessed to have Davey Richards, one of the great professional wrestlers in the world, defend the MLW National Openweight belt against Thrillbilly Silas.
Yes.
Thrillbilly up 6'6", probably 320 against Davey Richards, who's maybe 5'9", probably 200. I mean, that's going to be interesting, right? I mean, because it's an open weight championship, and I credit MLW not only for allowing us to have Davey be on the show, but to be open to what will be a slobber knocker of a match.
Oh, I like that word. I would love to eventually see, even though he had bought Ring of Honor, but I'd love to see the NWA title defended even on AEW TV. I think that would be magnificent.
I have pitched it, and I certainly would be open to it. I think my general rap for about 3 years has been that everybody non-WWE should get in the business of figuring out ways to work together at least once a year and put on a super show.
Oh, I totally agree with that.
And I'm not hostile to the WWE.
Yeah,
I have nothing but general praise for what they do and what they've built. But I think it behooves everybody in the business to look at what is a no-brainer marketing opportunity.
sure.
If you could prove to advertisers and there are obviously people in the sphere who would be open. Triller comes to mind, the parent company of Now Fight. They did $73 million of business with Mike Tyson. I think you could shock the world. WrestleMania over 2 days had bigger social media numbers than the Super Bowl. A non WWE Super Show from every major company that exists out there, and everybody is in touch with each other and has worked on each other's shows.
It would be
So
great.
the names are easy to list off: MLW, AAA, Impact, AEW, New Japan, and of course the NWA. And I'm sure I'm leaving a few other worthy candidates off of there. You put a show like that together once a year, just once a year, I think people would be staggered by the social media numbers alone, and the gate would be massive.
Yeah. By the way, there's one champion you didn't know about, by the way, that I want the winner. Whoever wins that belt. We're almost out of time here on the After Chat. So let's go over, first of all, where can fans find the National Wrestling Alliance and you on social media so they can find out more about this incredible show that's happening in St. Louis at the Chase Hotel, where the original match.
Yeah, well, we have the normal stuff. We have Instagram and Twitter. But I would suggest if you're interested in the show, go to a Fight and get the Fight app. And for the cost of 2 pay-per-views, you can get 6 pay-per-views as part of our package deal. So it's a great deal. So if you just basically buy the NWA 74 pay-per-view, you get all our pay-per-views for a year. And then if you want to watch our programming, NWA Power, which comes out on Tuesdays, free on Friday on YouTube's, and Saturday, NWA USA, which is our other show. So we're putting out about an hour and a half of content every week. And so, yeah, we're up to 100 hours of content a year. So if you've missed out on what the NWA is doing recently, please check it back out. If you haven't checked it out, please check it out. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. We are definitely running a different type of wrestling program. And I think we've finally found this interesting balance between the historical perspective of the NWA and the 21st century perspective. And the product has really taken off since then.
Absolutely. And it's still 10 pounds of gold.
Somebody asked me today, actually, how much does the 10 pounds of gold weigh? And I say, I actually didn't know. But I as you know, I can attest to the fact, so can you, is it's not light. It is heavy.
Oh, I know. I've held it. So, and maybe one day I'll hold it again.
Well, let's see. Vince Russo.
No. I have the Cowbelt Championship Office Wrestling, and I'm also half of the International Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame Tag Team Champions, along with James J. Dillon. So,
very nice.
I don't know. We're gonna have to.
JJ will actually be on the show as well.
Well, yes, I understand that.
JJ Dillon, Baby Doll, Barry Windham, and Tommy Rich.
Yeah, wow, that's great.
Good time.
It's going to be a great show, a great event. You got to be there, as Freddie Miller used to say. Be there. This is Bill Apter and Billy Corgan. It's so great to see you. And
thank you.
As I always sign off, if you wouldn't mind pointing out at the camera, we'll see you at the matches.